Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Riftbound 101. It's episode 20. Today we are talking about Spiritforged order cards and the battlefields from the upcoming set. This is the final episode in the six-part series covering the set. And I don't think I will be doing this again for the next set in terms of episode organization. I think we'll do like two, or I'll figure out some other format just so we get more cohesive episodes. But if you've stuck with the series so far, thank you and welcome back. As you might be guessing, I look a little bit tapped out. It's because I actually just got done recording the first version of this, and something went wrong with the recording, so I have to do it again, and that means I'm going through all of these a second time. But I'm going to do my best to remain uh, upbeat and positive as I drink a ton of water to stave off a minor headache. The plan for today, as in the other videos, is to discuss one of the most relevant recent events that showcases what the meta is shaping up like for Spiritbound. The further we get into this early season, the more insights we have. And for today, it's going to be the Winter League Bologna event, which is the first large-scale non-Chinese event, which had, I think, 339 players and is going to provide some interesting backdrops to evaluate order cards against. Then I'm going to talk rather quickly about the Order Legends that already exist in the game, in Origins and the Proving Grounds, so that we can have an idea of what Yellow has been doing, as well as the Order Legends that are left up. There's no new Legends because we've covered them all in other respective colors, but I think just refreshing the discussion a little bit is going to be useful. And then I'm going to evaluate the order cards that are available, and I'm going to try to move through them faster than I did in the first video, as well as battlefields, which is going to make this video probably the longest of all of them. And then lastly, some personal favorites and some discussion about what's coming next for the channel. So buckle in, get a snack, get a drink, maybe get cozy, or if you're on like a treadmill at home or something, set up to have a comfortable time. So the Winter League Bologna event, hosted by Runes League and Mana Trust, is the first event that we've had regarding Spiritforged that's been outside of the city challenges. And although it is less players total than the city challenges were, it is by far the single largest contiguous event with 340 players-ish. So that's already super useful. The stuff I'm going to talk about is going to be fairly limited because we have partial decklist reporting at this point. We have like the solid top 16 and some of the top 32 decks, and then after that it's kind of a crapshoot. So we know kind of what's at the top, but we don't really know what showed up all that much. At least I'm using Rift decks, so maybe there's some better coverage somewhere else. And then the reason why I thought this was a really important event to look at and not the city challenges that we've been talking about so far is this is the first wholly best of 3 event, which now means that folks are starting to side deck. They're starting to bring hate cards like against specific archetypes, which I think is going to be more relevant to the game as it develops going forward. Whereas the CN events are usually best of 1, and then top cut is best of 3. So yeah, let's get started. As you might imagine, League of Draven. So the top 8 has 5 Dravens, 1 Kaisa, 1 Victor, 1 Yi. And then the top 16 has another 5 Dravens, 2 Rek'Sais, and 1 Teemo. So this means out of 16 top 16 decks, 10 are Dravens, and there are different kinds of Dravens, which is relevant to the discussion today. But it does mean that there are 11 decks that are red, and if my math is correct, 11 decks that are purple in the top 16, which leaves very little share left for yellow, I think, in 3rd place, then blue in 4th, and then green and orange only as a pairing for Master Yi. The Victor is 39 spell Victor, and I'm pretty sure the Master Yi is a non-Aurora, sort of like Ruin Runner version. The Kaisa I can't remember right now, especially because it's the second time doing this video. And the Rek'Sais are pretty experimental, and as is the Teemo. So I'm not going to speak too much, but below the video you have access to the event itself, and as it gets more populated with deck lists, you can check out other stuff. I'm pretty sure also number 17 Just below this was an Ezreal, so Ezreal's also sort of around, and that's like even more purple, which is pretty interesting. So top 16, 2/3 are Draven, 1/3 is everything else. That's pretty intense. There is a discussion to be had about conversion rate, and until I have like a full sheet that tells me how many Dravens were brought, it's pretty hard to discuss like how many made it through to the top 16. But this is a pretty lopsided representation currently, and I always want to add the caveat that like aggressive decks are faster to figure out than control decks. So the sort of like day one or like the step one meta is always like aggro based, and red and purple were already colors that people were experimenting with pretty heavily, and Draven's good. Like he's pretty accessible to build with. When we move from top 16 to top 8, basically Teemo and Rek'Sai drop out. Some Dravens drop out. The one Kai'Sa, the one Victor, and the one Yi make it into top 8. So that means, you know, for Yi and Kai'Sa, those are, and Victor, they're archetypes that are already well known and they're getting fine-tuned, but they're less experimental than like Sivir or Fiora or Azir, right? So I'm not super surprised by this being the case. The graph coloring is a bit weird because Yi is red, but regardless. And then the final representation of the top 4 is 4 Dravens, right? So this would be like kind of like an all points fire alarm in most cases. But what I'll say is Draven is certainly at the top of the meta right now, but even within Draven, there is significant iteration happening. So these are the deck lists for one of the two fourth person players and the runner up. And these are kind of like there are like 2 different packages that you're sort of starting to see emerge that are jammed into Draven. So there's like the red side, which is triple Kai'Sa, triple Darius, 1 Bryn here, 2 Ferris Cavaliers, and some amount of Blood Rush, Longsword, and Spinning Axe is just kind of like super core to this deck. And then there's the purple side, which is the Overzealous Fans, Tide Turners, Treasure Hunters, Hard Bargains, Rebukes, Ride the Winds, Fighter Flights, and Stack decks. So Flash is somewhat amenable, or like you can figure out what you want to do with it. Same thing for Switcheroo and Noxus Hopeful. Some people just want like super consistent decks, so they go for triples. But you have kind of like a good mix of red and purple. 7-5 for the Rune Split in favor of red. And these decks play Targon's Peak and River's Row, and then Obelisk or Horde are, you know, debatable in terms of what you want to do with them. However, in the top 4, there are 2 other kinds of decks. So this is the third player deck, third best player deck. Still on the same battlefields, but 7-5 Chaos to Fury Split. And you might notice here, the purple package is pretty solid in terms of what's here, but there are other cards entirely. So no Kai'Sas, no Dariuses, no Red Draven. We're only on Vex and Noxian Hopeful and Spinning Axe, which is really funny to me because realistically, the only reason why you are not a 12 Chaos Rune deck is because you are sideboarding Falling Star and Ferris Cavalier and Red Draven. So this is kind of like maybe a transformative sideboard where you flip into the other version. This version is super punitive to Draven because Vex entering a battlefield will make Draven spells cost a lot more. So it's kind of like an anti-Draven deck, and it will also like sometimes push through in terms of like using purple Draven in the champ zone. So this deck looks way different than the other one, has a lot of interaction, and is sort of more heavy on the purple cards than the red cards. And then the deck that topped is significantly different. So if you're, you know, keeping up with discussion of the meta, this has been referred to as like the mono chaos adjacent deck. This deck cycles through drawing and discarding at like incredibly high speeds. You're using called shots to draw a ton. You're copying called shot with Fizz. You're using Ezreal to discard and draw more. And then you're playing a lot of cheap cards to discount Battering Ram on super aggressive plays. and you're loading your graveyard with discards so that you can draw more with Scrap Heap. You can play Rasa for 0, and you can start like reanimating certain units. The one of Vi here is played without a Ride the Wind, which is pretty noticeable, and you're really using it to recycle specific cards that you want to draw again in your deck. So it's more of like a utility tool. Sideboard, card that you're seeing everywhere else, with the exception of Thermo, which is an interesting addition as a one of. I imagine to snipe some decks that are running a lot of gear, like Yellow Draven, for example, with the Vanguard Armories. And the battlefield's quite different too. Targon's is not too surprising. It's kind of like discount Annie. Zon Warren's is really because you're playing with Traveling Merchants, so you can like discard 2 to draw 2 and make Rasa super cheap. And then Minefield is there to also load up your trash even more. And if you discard Raza, you can bring it back with Last Rites. Or you can just like discard others, or you can trash other stuff and draw Raza. So this deck is like significantly different, and will present some very different matchups. This deck is much more interactive on the opponent's side of the board. Basically, everything that you are doing to interact with combat will target enemy units, as opposed to the cards in red that don't, like Cleave or Blood Rush. So this deck becomes super prey to deflect costs. And so if Yi becomes, more represented with Ruin Runner, or you're seeing a lot of Fiora with Kianas and Fioras, or you're seeing some other cards that have like a lot of deflect, like Irelia and Navori Blade Scout. This version, I think, will like struggle more into those than Red Draven does. But this deck it almost feels to me like it's built to prey on Red Draven. So there's still going to be iteration, and I think by the time that we land on different Draven shells, there's going to be like different tools to deal with either deck. So it's not like the meta's solved. I do remain somewhat worried about the fact that like 2/3 of the top 16 are dominated by red and purple to some extent, and it showcases the power of cheap interaction and assertive aggressive units and card advantage. And a lot of the other colors struggle with this. In particular, yellow is the color that we're going to be talking about today, that does not accelerate well, and it doesn't draw well. It has very good unit removal, which makes it good when the meta is slow, and less so when the meta is fast. And, we can talk about what that looks like. So in terms of the Order Legends that have, I think, stayed strong and are a good starting point, Victor is certainly part of that landscape, right? His legend, I think people were playing him a lot in set 1 as a token generation unit, token generation card to play for wide boards with things like Grand Stratagems. The version of Victor that's seeing play now is completely different. You effectively need like 1 or 2 recruits to take battlefields, and your opponents, if they're removing your recruits, are usually overpaying, and then the rest of your deck is either more cheap unit generation with Vanguard Armory, or, as is the case for the 39 spell version, literally all removal and card draw, nothing else. So Victor, I think, just is the core, like, generate recruit units and go sort of wide, but he is flexible enough to allow other shells. I'm just going to try to reboot this because I don't want the slideshow to be messed up. Okay. Up next, Darius, we've talked about in the past. If you play 2 cards a turn, you can exhaust him because if you play a card, you can exhaust him to add an additional rune. So he's like the double card a turn play. It's a very assertive and committal style of play, and I think right now Darius is really like married to Baited Hook. However, with the addition of increasing amounts of removal and damage spells across the game, I think there will eventually be a spell-based or spell-heavy version of Darius, notably because his champion spell is actually suited to that kind of play. Noxan Guillotine offers like a hard kill spell that is in both colors, but what he's lacking is reliable unit generation, which Vanguard Armory gives you, and which is really accelerated by Jace, so he doesn't access blue. So he's kind of in this weird moment where he wants you to play units and he wants you to hook them, But those units are generally like alone, or there's a couple of recruits. So he's like not committed to either style of play, and he's not doing that well into purple, unfortunately. Then we have Leona for the stuns. This has been the sort of like lean, like aggro to mid-range holding deck that uses stuns. The main problem is, of any of the heroes that I'm going to be talking about today, I think Leona has like the worst matchup into purple imaginable, because you need to stun units, whereas your opponent just removes them. So let's say you're like playing yellow Leona, you push her in to stun a unit, they fight or flight you back, they paid 2 to your 4, your hero doesn't like hasn't done anything. If you're using a 1, like a single stun card, it's even worse, because then like they could just invalidate what you're doing, and they will win combats and just draw off of you, which is pretty brutal. They'll effectively turn the interaction into card advantage no matter what you do. So Leona's good, just not into purple. Similar thing with Set. Set's units get pushed back to base and they don't die. Set is like an early aggressive deck that is just like feeding Draven right now, so it's pretty rough. And Leona, not Leona, Lux is kind of like the alter Victor. So instead of focusing on generating units, you focus on your big spells drawing you cards. I think Victor out of the gate is more consistent because you don't have to find your win conditions. You just generate units as you go. But Leona will draw more cards, and if you are on the Jace engine plan more than the single unit Victor plan, I think there's a case to be made for Lux being somewhat competitive. And then finally, Garen lives in the Garen jail, where he is like ill-suited for his color combination. His color combination is ill-suited into the meta, and he has like a super specific condition to go extremely wide and conquer to draw 2. If your opponent does anything to you, you kind of lose. He's incredibly harmed by the existence of Bellows Breath, which is being run by Victor and Lux now. So yeah, he's just like not great. And then we have the new incoming Order Legends. So Rek'Sai is sort of the alternative to Darius in yellow-red. I think Rek'Sai gets to access a little bit more card draw, but the card draw is conditional on conquering, which means you need to fight and you need to conquer, which is going to be hard, especially because purple is just everywhere right now. Effectively, every one of your opponent's decks is going to read like 15 of those cards, stop my hero from doing what they want to do. But I do think that Rek'Sai is, as evidenced by the placement of 2 decks in the top 16, poised to enter the meta at some point. And the fact that the champion itself gives you card draw, or at least the better way to put it is like restrictive card play from the top with card selection. So it's like pseudo draw but not quite draw, and you do get to fix the top of your deck, is interesting for sure. Azir is the quintessential go wide equipment deck. I think he will be in set 2 what Victor was in set 1. The hero that generates a lot of tokens, and the tokens go wide and they're a bit bigger, and then you get to take points. I think Azir actually is fine-ish in the current meta, much better than Leona. And if you are running a lot of counter magic, you will be able to make this deck work, primarily because he gets access to his units, and then you can just play equipment and you can play interaction spells. So I'm not like convinced that he can go the distance, but he's certainly not like as bad as some of the other yellow legends are. Renata Glask is sort of your other big resource spender. She doesn't care about spells or units. You just get like your gold to make an additional resource. However, her main problem is that she has to hold early, and holding is very difficult right now because of purple's dominance, but especially holding without access to a hero ability is a lot harder than it looks. So she's kind of snowbally, right? If you're winning early and you get to hold, you're probably going to win, but if you don't, you're going to get locked out, which makes her matches feel like either very easy or very hard, and especially into purple. And then finally, Fiora Grand Duelist. When units become mighty, you can exhaust her to channel a Rune Exhausted. So you get 1 rune a turn if you're using that clause, which is not bad. And she is the other like equipment wearer. She wants a couple units that wear equipment to become mighty, or pump spells that make them mighty. She's not like super committed to one or the other, and she's just fine. Like she's doing I think solid things, and she has access to some very specific counter magic. But she is like literally running into a field that will punish you for doing what you're doing. Like if you take an equipment, you put it on a unit, you've already like committed 2 cards, and your opponent plays rebuke, and you scream. Right? It's pretty rough. So I would say of the new heroes, I definitely think like Rek'Sai and then Azir are on the stronger end. Probably Fiora, followed by a pretty big gap into Renata at the back. But Victor is good. And I think there are a lot of cards in this set that are going to look a bit strange when I rate them, but definitely Victor has some good likes to move on. Okay, so let's move on to the cards, because I think that's probably going to be the easiest. So like we do in every set or in every video of these, I go through in order commons, uncommons, rares, epics, and then champ spells. And then at the end today, we're going to add the zones or the fields. So let's just get started. Bonds of Strength, reaction speed, 2 energy, repeat 2. So you get to do it twice. And you give 2 friendly units +1 this turn. So because I already did one of these, I'm going to be like a bit short and to the point with the cards that I don't think are good. My answer for Bonds of Strength is just going to be like always play back-to-back. It's either too small if you play it for 2, or too big if you play it for 4, or too expensive. So not it. Eminent Benefactor, 5 might for 6. It's already pretty bad. And when I hold, play gear tokens, gold gear tokens exhausted. Understated with a hold effect in a meta that is not suited for him. Do not play Eminent Benefactor. Next card, Eye of the Herald. So Eye of the Herald has +0 might for 1 energy, an equip of 1. And whenever you move, you get to play a recruit token. So I actually quite like Eye of the Herald for Azir specifically. You can equip your Sand Soldiers on turn 1. This is like equipment that has 1 cost and is in green or yellow is like married to Azir because it is his turn 1 play. So you get to play this. You tap it. You tap Azir. You generate your Sand Soldier. It auto equips because of Weapon Master. And then next turn you get to move it, and it's effectively like a cheaper Noxian drummer. And there are a couple of cards in green that move all of your units, so sometimes you're going to generate more recruits off of this. But you're reasonably happy if you're just getting like the 1 every time, and then you get to like re-equip it or do some other stuff with it later. And then the other fringe case that is good, you might have noticed when I was going through the Dravens, there's a lot of Reaver's Row around. So if you jam this in like Reaver's Row, you can hedge your bets and like move the eye backward. So you like go in, you hold, they attack you. You have 1 Sand Soldier and your recruit. You back up your Sand Soldier, it makes another token, and they still have to like deal with the recruit, which maybe you can buff or not buff. You can power it up with like a discipline or on guard or something, depending on what you're using. So I like Eye of the Herald a lot. I don't think it's going to see play anywhere except for Azir, but in Azir, it will see play. Guards is 3 energy, and you can hide it for 1. And it plays a Sand Soldier unit, and you can pay 1 order to ready it. So in Azir, this is sometimes going to be a pretty interesting combat trick because you can hide it, and then you're going to be able to pop it to move an equipment onto it in the battlefield. Now, normally, holding and hiding cards is pretty rough right now because of the prevalence of purple, but this is one of those cards, kind of like Shenkinku, where if your opponent fight or flights or rebukes your unit, you can pop this and like replace it with another unit that's going to get equipped, and then you don't have to ready it. The ready is really if you're playing it from hand and you need like an accelerate card to wear an equipment and like just go somewhere. And I think the value of accelerate in yellow is pretty good. However, if you're playing this just raw without Azir, it's really bad. 3 mana or like a hide of 1 energy burn, or 3 energy and 1 rune for a readied, like an accelerated unit, is just kind of like a shittier Legion Rearguard. So I think for that reason, this card's probably like a 2 of in Azir, and maybe it's a 1 of, and like nowhere else will you see this. But sometimes this will catch your opponent off guard, and I do like it for that, certainly. Next up, Honest Broker. 2 might, 2 energy, Death Knell, play a gold gear token exhausted. Sign it, ship it. This card's great. You will play this in a ton of yellow decks that care about gear, or like that care about gear, that need gold to fuel stuff, and that have no issues killing their own units. There's a card like pretty imminently that interacts very well with this card. But evidently this card is seeing play in Victor, it's seeing play in Lux. You're really happy to play it, and it also has Death Knell, so if the Death Knell Dream deck with Karthus and Hook ever becomes a reality, Honest Broker is going to have a lot of room there. But in general, I think this card is great, and it's only like marginally worse than the Plundering Poro in blue, which I like. And yellow is super hungry for runes, so it's good. Laurent Duelist. 3 might, 4 energy, Assault 2. It's bad, don't play it. This dies to a lot of removal in base. Like it dies to 1 tick of Falling Star, which is usually pretty bad. It doesn't do anything on defense. Like it's spectacularly bad on defense, actually. So it can only take a battlefield once, and it doesn't have Accelerate. It's overcosted and poorly, like the keyword interacts poorly with what you want to be doing in yellow. I do not like this card at all. I think it's like pretty bad. The only thing that it has going for it is pretty funny flavor text. Royal Guard. So 4 energy, 2 might, and generate a Sand Soldier. Again, in the context of Azir. This might be a card that sees play if we ever like go into a meta where you just need to go as wide as possible. And there you're effectively getting like a 2 might and a 2 might that auto equips a weapon for 1 less. Aside from that, I think this is like pretty awkward. It actually is like the worst configuration of a 4-mana card because both sides die to Falling Star. It also gets hammered by like Bellows Breath with the repeat. It dies to like Blood Money. It's just not. It's not good, unfortunately. Then we have Sand Splitter, 6 might, 5 energy, 2 order runes, and you can kill a unit with 3. So this card is going to have interaction with Emperor's Deus when we get to the battlefields, where like you can effectively like keep flipping this in your hand to kill 3 cost units. The problem is, it is overstated for its cost, but 2 runes is pretty brutal. This is kind of like a dollar store vengeance taped onto a 6 might unit. But the problem is when you play this, you're probably not wanting to kill a 3 might unit, and if your opponent can do anything to buff it, it's pretty bad. So against green, this card doesn't do much. Otherwise, it's like fine. It does hit like purple Ezreal. It hits a lot of the purple units that often are moving around, and it can kill in base. So my feeling with this card is, in a control deck, this card might actually be real, but otherwise I think the cost is just too high. Like burning 2 runes to recur this, to like play it and then recur it somehow, is a bit tough. But maybe at some point this card will like be legit and will kill units. It's pretty rough in like this brutalizes Master Yi a little bit, but that's like its main case, and Master Yi is not like super popular right now. Does nothing against like good red decks though. Trusty Ramhound, 2 might and 2 energy. This is kind of a side grade to the Poros. Like Trusty, no, not Trusty, Stalwart and Daring. So those get +1 on offense or defense. This gets +1 both cases, but you need another unit. So it's really for like an aggressive go wide deck. I actually quite like this with like Xin, which we're going to be talking about, but I can't like see the deck for this right now is really what I'm coming to as a conclusion. It might also see play in Hook, because sometimes you just want to hook a unit that's like undercosted and overstated early on, so you can like push into a 4 cost. So I'm not like saying this thing isn't going to do anything, but right now I'm not like super keen on it. Zonpunk, 3 might, 3 energy. You can kill a friendly gear, and when you play it, and if you do, you kill a gear on the opponent's side. Never play this. It's 3 for 3 is like generally considered to be a bad stat point. It gets punished by like Hex Tech. It's got some issues. And it doesn't draw a card, and in fact costs you a gear. So it's like 3 and like a gold to do a worse version of Salvage, which draws you a card and replaces itself. I would just play Salvage every time over this. BF Sword. So BF Sword is +3, and you would think that like having a cost of 4 is pretty restrictive, but really, once you have played it, if you play it once and you equip it, you're going to be like a bit underwhelmed. You can obviously Azir equips these without having to pay the cost on Sand Soldiers, where like this effectively is like 4+1, so it's 5 to generate a 5, which is okay. But where it really starts to shine is when you can keep equipping it to units that are trading above their weight. So Azir does that very well. Fiora can do it reasonably well with like Unsung Hero, which is really its partner unit. And like maybe in set you can also use this reasonably well. So in those 3 decks, I think I would play this a ton, and I would never play it in any of the controlling decks. It's not a surprise that there's like a 3 of in Azir. Then we have Blood Money, which is the second of the uncommon cards that I just moved to. 2 energy, it's an action speed. It can kill a unit at a battlefield with 2 might or less, and if it was an enemy unit, you get a gold, and if it was your unit, you get 2 golds. So obviously, in Victor, you can kill your own recruits to make 2 gold, which you can then use to power up more expensive spells. This card is great. Effectively, what this card does is, if you look at it like in a vacuum, you're going to say, well, not so many units have 2 might. A lot of units push above it, like Raven Blooms, but a lot of the purple units are at 2. So Overzealous Fan, Tide Turner, and Traveling Merchant are all at 2, as is Treasure Hunter. So they all get hit by this. And they're not all in decks that can buff over its threshold. So you're often going to be able to take a unit and get a gold. But if you are in your deck and you just play this killing a recruit to get 2 gold, or even a broker to get 3 gold, this card effectively lets you forgo having to play Seal of Unity. And it means that you're never going to like draw dead by drawing Seal of Unity, which I really like. So yeah, Blood Money is good. And obviously it's being played in the 39 spell version, because having cheap removal is really what that deck needed to not like get clobbered by its own rune costs. But yeah, this card's the truth for sure. Death Grip. So 2 energy at reaction speed, and you can kill a friendly unit to give plus might equal to its might to another friendly unit this turn, and you draw 1. So I like the card that this was based off, which was Glimpse from Legends of Runeterra. That card was like notoriously one of the best spells that game ever had. The cost on that was a bit different, the circumstances were a bit different, but the truth is, countering a spell that effectively like removes one of your units and getting to draw 1 off of that interaction is really useful. And often, if your opponent does not have a legal target, the spell will fizzle. So, we have to check how targeting interaction works. Maybe you can disrupt some stuff. But let's say it doesn't do anything. And the one thing you can do is you can staple the might from one unit onto another and draw 1. This card can be pretty great. You can like take a unit at a battlefield that you're losing to protect another one. You can like use a unit in base to trigger this. You can use it on Death Knell units. Death Grip's going to have like a ton of interaction as the game grows, and I really, really like this card for sure. Drag Under. 5 energy, 1 rune, action speed. It costs 2 less if you play it from anywhere other than your hand, which is really a clause for Rek'Sai, and it kills a unit at a battlefield. So in Rek'Sai, you can probably play 2 of these and get away with it and have like 2, 3 energy, 1 rune kill a unit, which is pretty dope. And if you're in control decks, this is just going to be 5 energy, action speed, kill a unit with 1 rune. We just talked about how much gold you're generating with Broker and Blood Money. This card is like legitimately incredibly good. It's good into purple-red, where there is very little protection for units. It's even good into red-blue, where they can recall a unit, but they can only do it so many times. It's like dead case, where you're a bit annoyed, is like Ferris Cavalier, which is really like the card that annoys the Victor deck. But this card's real, for sure. And often, if you're against like a Voltron deck and they're like stacking it up and you have to pay like 5 runes to target their Ornn, this might still be enough. Uh, Probably don't do that, but otherwise, like Drag Under's great. Glass Mixologist is 5 might for 5 energy and 1 rune. Has Death Knell, and it's the same Death Knell as Spirit Mother. You can play unit with 3 energy and no more than 1 power, ignoring its cost. So this card is a bit harder to trigger because the way that hook decks work is they're kind of like a pyramid. You have a lot of two power units, then a lot of 3, then a couple of 4, and maybe 1 or 2 5s. And if you're hooking this into something else, this effectively provides like the bridge to get to like Harness Dragon, which is pretty cool, right? So like, let's say you start the game, you play Broker, you hook it into you play hook, and the next turn you play Broker and you hook Broker into Vanguard Captain. So you get your tokens, you get that. Then the next turn you hook Vanguard Captain to Spectral Matron, you get Vanguard Captain again. And then you have to hook Matron into Glass Mixologist, and there, like the Vanguard, you have to find a different way to put into your graveyard, or you have to like kill it in combat or something. But you get value off of it, and then you get to like trade the Mixologist up for like a 6-drop. But some amount of the time, this is going to be like a dead situation where you're not going to be able to do that chain perfectly. So Glass Mixologist space, I think, is really in hook decks, which really are like Darius for now. Or it will be in a Death Knell deck when it comes out, but not currently. Rally the Troops. 2 energy, action speed. Whenever you play a unit this turn, it is buffed, and you draw 1. Listen, buffing has interactions. So this card can be read 2 ways, right? You can read it as like wide board. So if you're playing like Vanguard Armory, which you can see below on the left, you can get like +3 out of this and draw a card, which is solid. And sometimes you're going to want to play this in a yellow deck to just draw a card or to buff what's coming out, for example, with Leona. It's fine. I think it's really for the spell-based Victor to just have more draw and a little bit more utility, but that's pretty much its use case. Unsung Hero, 2 energy for 2 might, and it has a Death Knell to draw 2. This card's a Fiora card. You attach BF Sword to it. It's a 5 might that when it trades, it's 2 might. Then you turn into a 5 might, and when it trades, you get 2 cards back. The problem is if this gets like stupefied or it dies to like being minus powered, you like lose a lot of value off of it. It's still like probably good there, and that's like one of the best places for it, but otherwise I don't think I would play it anywhere else. Vanguard Armory. So 7 energy for 1 power to have gear comes to play readied. Then you can exhaust it to play 3 recruit 2 tokens every turn. This is the win condition for Spell Victor, Big Mana Lux, and Renata. It's like an all-star in those decks, and it will see play nowhere else. It is like the quintessential go wide endgame win condition. Blue decks especially get to like ramp it out with Jace by eating a gold token or any other gear. So in blue yellow, this card is like extremely good. It's theoretically a Garen card, but I'm not really sure I see how you play it there in any amount of time that is reasonable, other than that like you're ramping and that turns Garen into like sort of an off meta, like it's like Aurora, but instead of going tall, you go wide. I don't know. I'm not convinced for it there, but in the controlling decks where you can like clear the board constantly and this generates more recruits than your opponent can, this is good. And it's essential to the mirror, like the Spell Victor mirror. The sorry, the blue yellow mirror, whether it's Victor or Lux, lives and dies by who can generate more recruit tokens. So it's essential for that, and I think why people have started playing it. And then we move into rares. Altar of Memories is 2 energy. When a friendly unit dies, you can exhaust this to draw 1, and then you can cycle 1 card from your hand either to the top or the bottom of your deck. This is like a card to pair with Baited Hook. You can maybe play 1 there. and maybe sometimes with Rek'Sai. Otherwise, I think this will be a card that will maybe see play once we move to Death Knells, and that's about it. I don't really see it anywhere else currently. Then we have Rek'Sai Swarm Queen, second Rek'Sai. The first one was Rek'Sai Breacher that we really liked. And Rek'Sai Swarm Queen is 5 might for 5 energy and 1 rune. When I attack, reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. You may play one, then recycle the rest of the played card of the cards. If the card is a unit, you can play it here. So presumably where Rek'Sai is attacking. This card is like really strange because when attack effects trigger and then defense reactions trigger. So if you play this and somebody pushes you back, you're gonna have to like play the unit at your base. At the worst, it gives you some card selection, and you can play spells off of it, which is useful, like Drag Under, for example. This card is solid in Rek'Sai. I don't really like it anywhere else. It doesn't have Accelerate, which really I think would make this card like over the top, but I understand why they didn't put it on it. 5 for 5 is decent, and the 1 rune at 5 I feel a little bit less bad about for sure, but I still think the red one is a bit better in the champ zone for the threat of the Accelerate beater. So you probably play this in the main deck as like a 2 of would be my sense. But when you have one of these or 2 out, they like the first one helps you find the second one, and if you have 2 out, you can just start like chaining units and just like burying your opponent in attackers, which is probably one of the reasons why those decks were getting through. I would have to like, if we look at the decks that got through with Rek'Sai, right? Yeah, there are none. So they're like removal decks. Yeah, they are actually. They're removal decks with Darius Trifarian and Immortal Phoenix. That's really funny. So that's one. And then the other one is that the same deck? That's the Morcelli deck. Okay, so this actually looks closer, but they also don't play it. So it's on like Under Titan and Ferris Forerunners. So this would be the version of the deck where I would see this played, but if it's not getting played, I'm a bit like confused by it, but we'll see. Renata Glask, 4 might, 4 energy, and 1 power. Your tokens enter ready. So I think for the Renata deck, the blue Renata is more suited. I think this Renata is suited as a side card for Victor and Azir to provide utility to make your units, your tokens more aggressive. And I think in certain matchups, like this will break parity, where going slightly faster than your opponent will make you win. So I would like this as like a 1 or 2 of in the sideboard, but pretty much nowhere would I play this outright. Although I will say 4 might for 4 power, even with the energy cost, is like pretty solid in terms of like what it can dodge. Then we have Sacred Shears. +1 might, 2 energy, 1 power to cast, and 1 power to equip. So you can only dodge 1/2 of that cost for playing Azir. And it has Death Knell, draw 1. This card is like lights out for Azir. It makes all of your Sand Soldiers draw into more cards that are either equipments that will generate new Sand Soldiers for them, or there are cards that produce Sand Soldiers, or removal, or draw. Sacred Shears has like a home in that deck for sure. Probably 2, just so you don't get buried in the cost. And I could see this card being played in Fiora. It's in the starter deck, and it likes units that are already at 4. So it likes original Fiora, it likes Kiana. Those units, if you equip this, they become mighty. So they refund the first equip cost, and they also have Death Knell, and they let you draw, which orange and yellow really needs. So I like it for those 2. That's kind of it. I think like playing this with like Hook is a bit memey. You're like burning so many runes between like equipping this constantly, and also like Hook's cost, and Hook effectively lets you see most of your deck anyways, so I don't think it would go there. Then we have Soraka Wanderer. 4 might, 4 energy, 1 power. This thing has I must be assigned combat damage last, which is like inverse tank. And whenever a unit you control would die wherever Soraka is, if it has less might than Soraka, so 3 and less by default, but you can make this bigger, you heal it, you exhaust it, and you recall it. This card is bananas. I think even the Challenger TCG folks had some issues with like rating it outright. I think it gets punished by yellow because if they break your sequencing of units, it's pretty bad. But this card will basically turn any like holding strategies into like incredibly annoying to break tank forts. Like yellow set probably can run this and just sit bigger, like somewhat smaller units and also buff this to make it bigger. And then you're just like sitting around and you have like this and it has like a +1 buff and you put like Lee Sin and Lee Sin gives +2 to this, so it goes up to like 7, and then you play like Set Kingpin, and Set Kingpin's at like 6. So it gets like really impossible to like fully break apart a holding strategy. I think this thing is great with Leona, where if you stun anything, you can put a buff on it, and then you can like Call to Glory it. So this card like really makes Red's life really hard, and a lot of things I want to trade fairly. But if somebody pushes this out and then just like goes in, it can like blow apart your whole game plan. So it's got this like weird situation where right now I would never advise playing this so long as like the current versions of Draven are like dominant. But as soon as we move out of like a purple meta, this card will be good, almost assuredly. Trove Golem, 9 might for 8 energy and 2 power, and it generates 4 gold. This is like a Renata card. It's also like weirdly enough like an Aurora card if anybody's still on like yellow orange Aurora. And it makes a ton of gold to like refund other stuff and to be used in Renata's like gain point abilities or in the Power Nexus battlefield. I just think it's too slow for the game. The rune cost is like immaterial, but if you're somebody who's been playing like big units need to do things when they come into play. Generating 4 gold is not enough. Like comparable units are like Mind Splitter, White Flame Protector, Dead Bloom, which are all like cards that are like really impact the board as soon as they get in. Trove Golem, I think, is probably going to break some shit later on with a card that like lets you use gold to generate energy, but for now, I'm not really feeling it. Maybe for Renata, but that's about it. Under Titan, 5 might for 6 energy and 1 power. When you play me, you buff your board, and when it's revealed, you can add 2. So notably, if you conquer a battlefield and you reveal this in Rek'Sai's ability, it gives you the 2, and you can play it, and then it'll buff whatever units you have anywhere, and then if there are any in base, you can like attack with those and take another battlefield. I think Under Titan is a bit gambly, but when you casino roll this into like the jackpot, it's going to feel amazing. It's probably for like a go wide version of Rek'Sai and only that. If the spell based Rek'Sai is the thing that keeps going, then I think we're gonna like it's gonna be a bit different. But I do think this card is like legitimate. It's just like got a very specific niche. Then we have Xin Vigilant, so 4 might for 3 energy and 1 power. It has tank, and it enters ready if you control 2 or more other units in your base. So the dog that we were looking for is really good with Xin Zhao. So like if you have like a recruit, the dog, and this, you get to like have an attack of like 8, no 7, no 4. The dog has 2, he gets +1, and the recruit you're at 8, and this thing tanks first. Be prepared that this thing will die often, but it will let you overextend into some pushes that you normally wouldn't be able to do. This card can like break through some small like forts. This card is nominally intended to let you go over like Yi holds with small units. And I think like the token control Victor gets to play this as like just an accelerated unit that is like pseudo removal, which makes it oftentimes uncounterable. I think Xin Zhao is great. I think he's going to be great for a long time. The energy cost is fine. The power cost is a bit scary if you're not like on a deck that makes a lot of gold. Losing 1 rune that early is... You feel it in the long term, right? If you're playing this on like turn 2, and then you're playing like another 6 turns. That's like 6 power or 6 energy that you didn't get to see. So just be careful with your curve, but he is solid. And then we have Azir Sovereign, 4 might for 4 energy. He has Accelerate, and when you attack, you may move any number of token units to this battlefield. So he moves recruits, he moves sand soldiers, he moves sprites. Although I don't think there's any way to generate sprites with him. Like if you're playing Azir, if you are playing this in some kind of like Victor deck, he might be good there too. I think yellow Accelerate is incredibly valuable. There's not a lot of it. And the fact that he can give like pseudo accelerate to a lot of units or pseudo ganking to a lot of units is super valuable. He's most definitely the Azir that's in the champ zone for Azir. And I think he's going to have like a long half-life in this game for sure. I really like what he does. One of the coolest things you can do is if you are playing Azir and you are playing Windswept Bastion, or I think it's Windswept Bastion, and you're like second player, you get to like load up a couple units. You play Azir, you shoot him into the battlefield. He drags along all your units, but he doesn't exhaust them. And then all of your other units can like gank into the other battlefield, which is a pretty cool like maneuver. He's got a lot of like cases where you can do some fun stuff with him. Up next, we have Blade of the Ruined King, Bork. So Bork is, I think, worse BF, unfortunately. 4 might for 3, 1 rune to equip, and 1 rune to cast, and then another 1 to equip it, and you have to kill a friendly unit. This card is clearly intended for Death Knell decks that want to see their units die. Unfortunately, there's no like real mega payoff to doing that. I feel like this is pretty vanilla. If there's ever like a reason to trade units like that into power, like if Viego does anything like that or Mordekaiser or something, sure. But right now, this card is too limited and too expensive to be worth playing, unfortunately. Maybe if you're like in a sealed event and you have this and you have like all of the Death Knell in the world, maybe. But I'm not super convinced, unfortunately. Karina Varaza, Accelerate and 6 might for 7 energy and 1 rune. So if you accelerate it, it's 8 energy and 2 runes. And when it moves to a battlefield, you play 3 recruits there. So there's nothing that like doubles attack triggers. So this is like pretty limited. It really feels like a worse Watcher. Although yellow does value tokens a bit more. If you play like the buff spell, you can theoretically like play this after, and then Karina comes in at 7, and the units come in at 2 each, and they're like all buffed, which sounds great in theory, but it's like a lot of pieces to put together. There's a case where maybe you play this in a deck that is like very high on Trifarian War Camp, and then this effectively means you're making like you get +1 on the Karina and +1 on each one of the tokens, which makes this effectively like a 13 power card, where then we can start talking, and then it's like you strategically side it out as soon as you're off Trifarian War Camp. But I feel like that's a lot to ask for a top end when I see something like Azir that's on the next line. And then we have Fiora Worthy. So Fiora Worthy, 3 might for 3. We talked about how unfortunate that cost is. Whenever a unit becomes mighty, you may ready it. So I think to play Fiora, you have to effectively set up conditions to immediately buff her. And then that makes her her ability like a cheaper accelerate. So she can like dash into a battlefield somewhere. She's not terrible. She's definitely better than the other Fiora, the one that's new. But the problem I have with this is I think I would just play like regular Fiora from the first set as my chosen champion and in the deck always. And then maybe I have 1 Fiora Worthy as a tech card to ready units by equipping runes. The good thing is you can do this multiple times a turn, but realistically that means like probably twice in 1 turn if you really want to like swing a combat really hard. I don't know. She's cool. I just don't think she's that exceptional. So like, yeah, maybe 1 of in an actual Fiora deck, maybe 2. But I'm not sure either of the new Fioras are actually in your champ zone. If one of them is, it's definitely this one, but I'm not sure that it is. And I think that's it for the order cards. I'm gonna dash through the champ spells real quick again, just to talk about them. So Void Rush, clearly like a really good spell for Rek'Sai. At worst, this is a draw 2 for 2 and 1 energy, and yellow red sorely need any kind of draw to be aggressive. They need to refuel. So this card is fantastic. And often this will let you play cards that you have no business playing by effectively like ramping them into onto the battlefield. It's a bit gambly because sometimes you're going to play this and you're going to really bet all on it and it's going to brick, or well, if it bricks, you just draw 2. But if you draw something that is like exactly what you wanted and you've discounted it, this effectively means you found your unit for like 1 energy, which is good. This card is like legitimate, but you know, be careful with the scenarios. And then we have Arise. So Arise is 6 energy and 1 rune, and it puts a Sand Soldier token on the battlefield for each unit, for each equipment you control, and then you ready 2 of them. Yeah, man. Listen, I don't know how good Azir is going to be, but I can probably tell you that any copy of Azir is at least running 2 of this, or I'm honestly probably 3. This card has so many scenarios where it is the best card in your deck. Theoretically, the thing that really breaks Azir in half is Thermo Beam, but you can win while Thermo Beam. You can run it for you, and breaking the equipment still leaves your Sand Soldiers, so it's not like a complete loss. However, let's say on turn 1 you play a small equipment and a Sand Soldier. On turn 2 you send that Sand Soldier to a battlefield, and then you generate another equipment and a Sand Soldier. And your opponent, either you play that Sand Soldier at a battlefield or at base. Next turn, your opponent generates you. They take your battlefield, and you are left with 2 equipments, one which is being worn by a Sand Soldier. You move to round 3. You move up to 6, and then you Arise. You generate 2 Sand Soldiers. They both come in. They both equip the equipment. I actually think you can't detach it from the first one, but the first one's ready. And you can still ready the new one that you put in. So you have 4 accelerated power, and you're auto-equipping 1 or 2 pieces of gear depending on how you sequence things. Like, at its worst, this thing is like 6 energy, 1 power for 2 accelerated 2 drops that auto-equip weapons with 1. That's crazy. This card is like always going to be good. It only gets countered by Wind Wall. God damn, this is good. Like, really, this plus Azir next to each other don't want to make you play Azir, then like this is not the deck for you. But like, if this is what you're in, you're gonna run this like as many times as you can fit in your deck. And then Riposte, 2 energy, 2 runes. As a reaction, you choose a friendly unit and a spell. So you do need a friendly unit to be able to get this off, to have legal targeting. You counter that spell regardless of what the spell is, and you give the unit plus might equal to its energy cost until end of turn. So often this will pay its cost by half by making something mighty, which then will exhaust Fiora. And you get to counter big or small spells for 2. This card is like a 3 of in Fiora. She sorely needs this kind of counter magic, and it is what allows you to deal in any amount with like purple cards. I think this is like brutal if you're playing against Kaisa and you're like, Acathian Rain doesn't matter, Time Warp doesn't matter. If you are pushing in with a unit and they like Void Seeker it and you counter it, you've like taken away their draw and you've given your Fiora plus, or whatever unit is +4, which almost always will make it mighty. Like, the only requirement for this card is to have a unit on board. And if you don't have units to target with things, you've already probably lost as Fiora. So this card is definitely like fine in that deck. Whew. Okay, we're done with Order. And I'm going to talk about the battlefields a bit quicker. So Emperor's Dais is interesting in that its main function is to recur units with enter the battlefield effects, like the Sandcrafter that we saw earlier. The problem is a lot of the units that have like good come into the battlefield effects have like other battlefields that are a bit better. I would like this a lot in purple for Fizz and for Ezreal. And I probably like it a lot actually for cards like Mind Splitter, which you just get to like recur constantly. But otherwise, I think like this card is kind of a flavor fail because the worst thing you want to do here is like use it with Azir. Azir doesn't want to like push back his units that are Sand Soldiers into the hand, unfortunately, unless you want to like use it to like recast Azir Champion from your hand for one, and then like do a double conquer or something. Yeah, I'm not like super keen on this, but I think it'll sometimes produce some funny things. I just think there are like better options. It's not terrible though. Heart of the Fluffed, kind of in the same zone. When you control this battlefield, friendly legends have attached an equipment you control to a unit you control. Obviously, the big equipment decks want to hold battlefields, but the problem is holding is like really terrible right now. So this is a battlefield that is like blanked against Draven and Annie and Yasuo and Aurelia. Maybe less Aurelia, but still. I do not like this battlefield. If it does have a use case, it's probably in a Fiora deck where you want to not have to pay that cost and still ramp, but that's really where I would see it. Next up, we have Forgotten Monument. Players can't score here until their third turn. So math this out, right? You are the start player. You see this on the battlefield and you're in an aggressive deck. So on turn 1, you play a unit. You weren't going to score there anyways. On turn 2, you can attack the battlefield. You won't score. But then if you hold, you'll score at the start of the third turn. So pretty much nobody's scoring on turn 1. So this card really is like it eats one possible point out of the game, which makes it kind of like a worse Aspirant's Climb. So you probably want to play this in decks with Aspirant's Climb as like your second neutral battlefield, and like not anywhere else. It's not terrible in most of those places, but it looks more oppressive than it actually is where I'm at with this. Hall of Legends. When you conquer here, you may play 1 to ready your legend. So Azir loves this card. Like one of the things you can do is on a turn where you already have a unit ready to go, you play an equipment, you tap him to make a Sand Soldier, you equip the weapon, then whatever unit you already had, you send in here, you pay 1, you unexhaust Azir, and you play like another Sand Soldier. It's a lot of value, and certain legends are really going to value their exhaustibility like greatly. I don't think enough of them do for this card to be amazing all around, but it will see play in decks that really need to unexhaust their legend as often as possible. So Aurelia, Set probably can like enjoy this card a lot. Azir, but some legends it's going to do nothing against. It's probably like its best thing is that it actually has like negative synergy with Draven and Annie, and Yi. So you get to like play this, and you get to use it pretty profitably against any of the major decks except for Kai'Sa, which will like use it to refund a power. So the answer is like if you are on a deck that can use this profitably, that is like not Victor, where like you're playing overcosted recruits, use this because you will get more value out of it than your opponents. Mirai Spire, when you control this battlefield, friendly repeats cost 1 less. I don't think it's good enough. Repeat spells are not being played enough for this to be useful, with the exception of Bellows Breath, the blue triple ping, or Called Shot, which is 0. So this card is like at best discounting you like 1 to 2 energy a game, and you have to control it for it to do its thing. No, not in. Minefield, when you conquer here, put the 2 top cards of your main deck into your trash. So this card is like really for the purple discard package and somewhat for Vi. But really this card advantages like Last Rites, Raza. It advantages Mundo as well, but Mundo is like pretty hammered by the existence of purple currently. But like Draven will play this. Some versions of Annie will probably play this. I like it quite a lot. It does like really nothing for most decks that don't want to interact with their trash consistently. And for a lot of other decks, this card will be good. But it will certainly be good whenever purple is involved. Orange Forge. While you control this battlefield, the first friendly non-token gear played costs 1 less. So this makes equipment cheaper. It makes seals are already at 0, so it doesn't do much. But it makes a lot of like it makes Hook cheaper. It makes Vanguard cheaper. The problem again is control. So this card I think is like one of the best cards for Azir, one of the best cards for Ornn. You're going to be happy to play this in both decks, probably in Fiora to a certain extent. The problem is you're going to have trouble like actually capitalizing on this, but while controlled is definitely better than while hold. So its range is limited and it's a bit disruptible, but it's not bad. Power Nexus, while you hold here, you may pay 4 to score 1 point. Look, in theory, this card is amazing. It breaks the game in the sense that like if you are you conquer to up to from 3 to 5, you hold from 5 to 7, and then you pay the 4 runes, you move to 8, and you win the game on the hold. It's exceptional, but you have to hold. And that implies a lot of things, but you especially have to hold here. And as soon as this is on the board, your opponents are going to know what you're doing. This is like kind of like the if you hold here with 7 units, win the game card, except that your opponent can also get value out of this when you're playing it, which is a dangerous game. I don't really like Power Nexus, but I wouldn't be surprised if like Spell Victor or Spell Lux end up playing it as like an out. But I'm a bit like I find this risky. Ravenboom Conservatory. When you defend here, reveal the top card of your main deck. If it is a spell, put in your hand, otherwise recycle it. Hot dog. This card, the 39 spell Victor card deck works because of this card. Let's math out how this works. In the best case scenario, you are first with Victor, you generate a recruit, and then next turn you jam your recruit in here and you take it. And every time your opponent comes to take this, you will reveal the card of your deck, and it will be a spell. And you're going to draw it, and you're going to just draw on defense. Often, what you're going to, since when defend happens before any when attack triggers happen, you're going to draw reaction spells that let you kill the opponent's units that are pushing into here, which will then make them have to recommit. And you can draw multiple cards a turn. This card is absolutely like backbreaking if you're in that deck. I think Draven gets some pretty good value out of this as well, as does Annie, as does Kaisa-ish. But you are much less advantaged than you are with Victor and Lux. Victor in particular just like loves this so much. And even if you're playing the version that has 3 Jays, 3 Broker, 3 Vanguard, you are still playing 30 out of 39 cards that are spells, which is, you know, roughly like 80% of your like deck. So Ravenbloom is like absolutely stellar. Is going to be one of the best Spellslinger battlefields for the rest of its existence in the format. Yeah, I'm kind of in love with this card, and I'm also terrified to play against it. Rockfall Path, units can't be played here. This is bad for like people that want to like turtle and hold, but nobody's doing that right now. If we were playing against like Go Wide Lee Sin or Go Wide Set more, maybe, and this blocks Deadbloom specifically and the mini Deadbloom in orange, but I think it's pretty limited and it also affects you, so I don't like it. Seed of Power. When you conquer here, draw 1 for each other battlefield you or your allies control. This is like a multiplayer battlefield. I'm not going to talk too much about it. It can at most draw you a card sometimes, but it's pretty limited. Sunken Temple. When you conquer here with 1 or more mighty units, you may pay 1 to draw 1. The effect is really good. Draven decks right now aren't going to get a lot of value out of it, which is good. The red Dravens are, though. So, like, Darius going into this or Ferris Cavalier going into this is pretty bad. Any accelerate units that are big that go into this is pretty bad too. So this is nominally like for Volibear and Fiora, but you will sometimes like give your opponent the card draw as well. But Volley will value this enough. So I think like Volley would play this. Fiora, I'm not like 100%, but those are the two decks that you would want to have this with. And they need to be like Conquer decks. The thing that is like scary with this is if you are playing like Volibear Aurora and just dump like a Dead Bloom into this, and then you just like pay the extra one that you have to draw one, it's pretty strong. But it's also a bit overkill. Paper Tree. When you hold here, each player channels one rune exhausted. Your deck better value those runes more than your opponent's, or you are just like feeding your opponent runes. And it's also a hold ability. I think this is maybe for like Yi and not much else. And even then, I'm not like sure. This card scares me. Whenever you're giving your opponent like more resources or card draw, it's pretty rough. Treasure Hoard. When you conquer here, you may pay 1 to play a gold gear token exhausted. Decks conquer a lot right now. Gold is very valuable, both for Draven and for Victor. So you're going to see this battlefield a ton. It's not like free, which sometimes will force your opponent into some like very awkward trades. But I think this battlefield's upside is so good because it effectively like allows you to forego seals often, combined with the other cards that produce gold that already allow you to do that. So I quite like Treasure Hoard, but it might be one of the cases, kind of like Dreaming Tree, where if the symmetry is strong enough, people will start cutting it because too many opponents can use it as well. And then finally for today, we have Veil Temple. When you conquer here, you may ready a friendly gear. If it's an equipment, you may detach it. Detaching equipment is like a weird clause, which I'm not exactly sure where you would want to do it. I imagine for like Azir for multi-conquers, or for Fiora, or maybe for like Aurelia so you can retarget. Readying other gear. This card might be somewhat good in like Spell Victor, where if you are conquering with recruits, you can ready the battlefield and then you can really like go off. And it has some asymmetry where often, if that is the case, your gear is certainly more valuable than the opponent's gear. But as we get like more gear that is good on tap, this is probably going to be like decent. I just think it's a bit like I need to figure out all the use cases. Like Arena Bar is good. Seals are good with this. Vanguard is probably the best one. Yeah, it's pretty good. I like this. It's got like everything I want, which is like the decks that are good with this are really gonna like Veil Temple. Because it's not really gonna affect your opponents, and other battlefields are just not gonna do anything with this. Okay, so that's it for the cards. So I think one of the interesting things with yellow is that it has some of my favorite cards, and also makes me feel a bit like yellow got short shrift this round. It is largely because purple is just so favored into yellow as a color for the most part. So let's check out. So I talked about Honest Broker. Gold generation is going to be good. It's going to make seals a little bit less necessary, and some decks are going to run smoother without it. Vanguard Armory. Play 7 energy and you get the recruits. Obviously, in blue-yellow, this is going to be amazing, but this is like the cornerstone of a lot of like go-wide archetypes that are probably going to pop up. I like it a lot. I think it does something really cool for the game. Soraka I talked about. It's going to depend on what the meta is going to look like, but I wouldn't be surprised in the future if there is a Soraka deck that can like really make use of this with like smaller units to like turtle on field. This is like by excellence hold strat, but we need like a more hospitable environment for this. And then maybe my favorite card out of the entire set, Azir Sovereign. I was an Azir player in Runeterra. I was an Azir player in League. He is like my guy, or like my guy number two behind Pantheon. I like what he does. He produces some really cool lines of play, and he gives yellow speed and flexibility, which I think are all like awesome. So these are like my four favorites, but obviously I like other cards too. Drag Under I quite like. I like Under Titan. Um, I like Blood Money. The removal is like very good in yellow this set. Yeah. So yeah, I mean tokens, right? Tokens go wide, aggression are all good. I do think that the Rek'Sai Breacher, not Rek'Sai, the Rek'Sai Swarm Queen stuff is maybe going to pop off at some point, but we'll see. And my feeling right now is that Spiritforged has ended up being like really interesting. It certainly is, I think, leading to a consolidation of strength in purple and red, which were like red was already hyper dominant for most of set one, and purple was on the rise towards the end of set two with Annie and MF. So I'm a bit like, about that color combination. I say this as somebody who's recently ran Yasuo in a skirmish, so I'm like fully aware of the power of purple cards. But I like yellow most, and I'm looking forward to when like yellow decks are going to be on the table for me competitively. So, some tempered optimism. And like I mentioned at the top of this, it's not because Raven is super dominant right now that it's going to remain so for the rest of the game. It'll probably still be good, but I think there's a lot of space around it and within the archetypes to figure out what the right speeds are. And red and purple are prey to different kinds of archetypes. So there will be movement for sure. Um, the other thing that I wanted to talk about very quickly is, so this is the final of the Spiritforged review videos. So on Wednesday, I'm going to move to talk about Set, and especially like the two versions of Set that exist, the yellow leaning and the orange leaning ones. Most honestly, that video should just be me like hyperlinking a link to Colin Kaiser's videos. But as of next Monday, we will no longer be on Set reviews. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move back towards some more general topics. I'm going to talk about things like sideboarding in general. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to read matchups and figure out like what to do when you're at different tempos. Like I think there's a lot of like room for more fundamentals to be injected into the content. And then we're going to be flush with the champion reviews we have left after Set. MF, Yi, Annie, and Lux, which I think puts us exactly the Wednesday before Spiritforged releases in North America. And one of the questions I've been getting is, are you going to do any more of these after we move into the new sets? And the answer is I'm certainly going to do it for the new heroes. We have about 3 months between each set, which is 12 weeks, and there are about 12 heroes every set release. Maybe I'll bundle a couple. And am I ever going to go back to heroes I've already covered? And the answer is also yes. Unfortunately, because of the scheduling, it'll be very hard to like do in-depth videos about each one, but I'm certainly going to bundle a couple to talk about like new variations and archetypes. So that's the plan. I'm experimenting with TCG Arena to get more gameplay on the docket. And another one of the videos I want to do after I'm done with my third skirmish is going to be like how skirmishes feel, how to play in them, how to choose decks for them, really, and the differences between open play, Nexus Nights, skirmishes, and larger competitive events with multiple rounds. So those are the plans. Hopefully, this is to your liking. Again, if you've made it like all 6 videos, or even if you're like a regular reviewer, thank you so much. And I will see you next time.